One of the things that I appreciate the most about our Torah is that our biblical characters are never perfect. They make mistakes. They're clearly on a journey of growth as human beings. This core message is an important one in that all of us have the capacity to become more kind, thoughtful, just, and compassionate human beings who, through our life journeys, can increasingly bring more goodness and blessing into the world. The critical element that determines our growth in this direction is how we respond to and learn from our life experiences, no matter how exalted, challenging, or painful. In last week's Parsha, we encounter one of Abraham's most difficult tests. And the Midrash says that Abraham was tested 10 times, 10 major tests. And of course, the most painful one is the one in which he's instructed to sacrifice his son Isaac. And one of the things that's so hard about this portion is the idea that God would even ask Abraham to do such a horrible thing in a way to demonstrate his faith and commitment to God. Because we ask ourselves, what kind of God is it that would ask a father to sacrifice his son? And one way that we can look at this is of what Abraham, the nature of his test, is more of a psychological one, in that Abraham came from a very abusive family. His father Terach tried to throw Abraham in a fire because Abraham would not engage in idol worship. And Abraham grew up in a world in which parents abuse their children. And so it's possible that when Abraham first heard the call to sacrifice his son, he wasn't actually hearing God's voice, but his own projection of God's voice that came from his own abusive childhood. When Isaac is bound on the altar and Abraham is about to bring the knife down, he does hear God's voice. And God's voice is, put the knife down. Your son is not to be the sacrifice. Take the ram instead. And it's in this moment that we could see that this is the moment that Abraham meets his test, which is to go against his own upbringing, painful upbringing, in order to honor life and value his son and hear God's voice in his son's redemption. So all of life can be looked at as the challenging experiences in life as tests in which we are to bring our humanity,